Go. Allyship. This is both a powerful and contested concept. How do you bring it into the workplace? Welcome to the TWIJ Show, a weekly interview series from Technically on building better workplaces. I'm CEO and your host, Chris Wink. My guests today run the creative agency, The Palette Group. That's creative director Nate Nichols and executive producer Steffi Behringer. In response to the George Floyd protests, they co-founded Allyship in Action. So today we're talking, what does allyship mean in the workplace? So to start off, thanks for being here, you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
What is allyship? People have a lot of feelings about this word. What is allyship and how you define it?
I'll start with, they should have feelings, and they should understand that this word isn't some glamorous badge you put on. You know, we spoke about allyship not being the thing that absolves you from being a part of the problem. You know, what it does is it helps you define your role in reversing racism and systemic racism and oppression in the workplace, in the world. And what it means is you have to figure out what you're sacrificing personally and professionally to advance anti-racism work in and around the workplace and in your real life, and to advance Black people's lives, to advance Indigenous people's lives, to advance disadvantaged and discriminated against communities' lives, because they've been on the back burner while white men have been on the front line, in the forefront of every single aspect of our lives and history. And so it's just, there's a time of decentering that needs to take place right now, and we just have to do that work. And by we, I mean white people and people who haven't been having to deal with the issues that we have to deal with.
And I gotta feel like, or I should clarify, do you draw any lines between what allyship means at home and at work? Are those different things? Do they look different, or they run pretty similar?
They're pretty much the same. You just have to, again, identify how it shows up in your life. You know, you could be sitting in a meeting, in a client pitch, you know, and we're in advertising, so we're in meetings, and, you know, someone will want to cast a certain way. And if you're a white person in the room and you see that way of casting is indignifying and disrespectful to another culture, or the way they're communicating about a specific look or vibe they're going after for that production or for that creative, you should take a stand and say something. And if you're at home with someone who said something or has done something that was indignified and disrespectful to other culture or community, you should say something. And so regardless, it's about doing the right thing and understanding your role in doing the right thing and not being passive with the work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think it's really about how you show up as a human being, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're at home or if you're at your workplace, if you're in a meeting, or if you're at the family dinner table. It's really, I think allyship really starts with an internal reflection of who you want to be, who are you, like, what are your values, what is your ethos? And it needs that internal reflection to acknowledge what is your place and position in life, and what is your privilege, especially as a white person, right? Like, in what situation have you experienced that you potentially didn't realize that was, you know, you got away because you were in a privileged situation. And so I think it really starts with the acknowledgement of yourself, and realize that we all are part of the problem, so that we can all implicate ourselves as part of the solution and work on the allyship that, you know, we really want to drive radical change in our industry, in our lives, in our families, like in all the circles that we're in. And yeah, I think it really starts with your own self.
I want to ask you guys to help arm listeners with tactics to take into the workplace, in addition to some strategies. But let's pause for a moment and tell me a little bit about what is allyship in action? Why'd you find it, and what are you hoping to accomplish with it?
So allyship in action is two parts, two functions. So one functioning aspect of it is a platform and a forum for advertising industry and corporate America to discuss racism and anti-racism within the many layers of corporate America and the ecosystem. of corporate America and advertising. And so the goal is for people to have the space to step beyond their company's Black Lives Matter statements and be a human and speak to, what they're doing personally and what they're doing from a leadership perspective. So identifying all of these white leaders sitting at the C-suite and being like, what are you actually doing to, to support allyship, but to support Black people and to support communities that have been discriminated against within corporate America. And we have designed workshops within that format. And so individuals in corporate America, whether you're C-suite or middle management, or wherever you are in the hierarchy, you can come to our summit and see what and how people are thinking and what they're doing and codifying their actions. But also you can come learn how to have uncomfortable conversations. You can come learn how to weaponize your privilege for good if you're a white person. And it's being taught by a woman who's been in the industry, for example, for years and has done this herself. She feels confident in taking a stand in her ability to be an ally. And so a lot of people just have vertigo and they're like, I don't know how to be anti-racist. And it's just like, we get it, I personally don't get it, but like we get that there needs to be guardrails. There needs to be a harm audit in place so people aren't just running around trying to be allies and just disrespecting people along the way. Because this is new. This is the first time in ever history where white people are like, oh my God, I'm implicit on racism, I'm racist. And so we want to be able to design a space where they can learn to be productive.
And one more part to add to the summit series is the accountability piece of it. So one of the motivations from our side was to, shift our programming of the virtual summits to allyship in action, to hold people accountable of their statements and that post, the black squares that they posted on Instagram and stated that they are supporting Black Lives Matters, but what is behind those words? What are you actually doing within your organization? Where do you start? What is your plan? And so that was one of the main, really incentives for us to put something out there in the world, in the virtual cyber world, and bring these people together and ask them. Like we literally keep it, we keep it real. We keep it honest. We call them out, and that's a space where we want everyone feel they can be themselves. They can come here to learn and to listen and to drive the conversation forward, to really dig in deeper to what is behind these words, what you actually mean by creating more empathy in the workplace. Like, how do you do this? And I think that's a key part to, not letting this momentum die. And one of the quotes that one of our speakers that I really, really admire, Jess Chung, who said, the revolution is in our evolution. And so this is also something that we want to drive forward and want to make sure that everyone is, keeps that on top of the head, that we all evolve, we're all here to learn and to listen, and we all have to do our part.
Mm. There's a couple themes that I read into coming out of the modernizing, I suppose, of what allyship means. And one of them, Nate, you alluded to the reminder that this is white people's mess is essentially like one of the themes that gee golly, be thankful if you have Black members of your organization or other people from unrepresented groups that want to be part of the charge and are willing to offer voice. That's a bit of a gift that they maybe feel committed enough to your organization, or they may believe that the people around them are trying to do something and want to contribute. But at the end of the day, my read of what allyship intones is this is something white people got to do.
Yep.
Form the diversity committee with a bunch of Black teammates and say good luck. Steffi, we're in video, so something tells me I think you might be white. I wonder.
100%.
I wonder, not to make any assumptions, why does it matter that Allyship in Action is co-founded by a Black man and a white woman? Does that matter? Is that supposed to tell us something?
Yeah, I think, from that perspective, yes. I remember that day when we, celebrated Nate's birthday, a day before George Floyd died, actually. And a couple days after, I've never seen Nate this way, that he woke up, we cried together, and he was like, I've never felt so much seen and heard ever. And that was also, even though we've been together for quite a while, it was such a like an awakening moment for me as well, that there is so much more burden and weight that I've already kind of knew, but there was so much more that I didn't know. And so I think it's very important that people see white people driving this mission forward, driving this momentum, not letting it die, not, being performative on the internet, but actually find ways and find your own role in this, how to be an ally. And that could be in many ways, you don't always have to be in the same way as you see someone on the internet that does whatever, like workshops or all this. Like, there are so many ways that you can be an ally. And so, yeah, I think it's very important that people see that this is a Black man and a white woman, and they're cohesive, driving one goal forward. And yeah.
I have to think in another element of allyship that I guess I'm thinking a lot about is a balance between demanding equity on what time scale. And this has been, I don't know, centuries of conflict. We just celebrated the women's right to vote, which we know coincided with an effort in which white women looked at the political landscape and thought, to get the white woman vote, we have to abandon Black women in particular. And there's a really messy historical read on that. And I wonder, in the workplace, what the hell is the line between getting something done and demanding for more? Is that something you guys must grapple with? I guess what I'm saying is, you have to be surrounded by incrementalism at allyship in action. Hey, we're a large organization and we made this step. It's not everything, but we did this step. What are you guys thinking about those steps? Hey, we formed a committee, or hey, we gave our first donation to a youth education program, or hey, we did this. Mm-hmm. I gotta feel like there's a tension of both, like, yes, thank you for pointing that direction. How are you reconciling those complicated timescale issues, I suppose?
Yeah, I think it's like, it's cute, like, you did a thing, but the weight of the shame in your shame, the white shame and the white guilt weighs ounces, and the weight of our generational trauma weighs tons. And so when it comes to increments, you know what? Like, keep incrementing, like, stay after it. Like, keep showing up in increment and hitting the next increment. You shouldn't just stop and be proud of, that first step of starting a committee. There's no badge of honor, for allyship. There's only the work. So it's, hey, we did this and we're doing that next. Hey, we did this and we're doing that next. Hey, we did this and we're doing that next. We honestly don't care until there are Black leaders in the C-suite that are helping make decisions that are driving businesses forward, period. Like, we just need to see more people in the C-suite and in leadership roles that look like us, that are normally discriminated against, that are chronically ill, that are disabled, that are non-binary. And it's just important for those people to have a weight and a means to design the future landscape of how your organization, how Fortune 100, Fortune 500 brands are informing how our economy looks 5 years, 10 years, 50 years from now. That's what really matters, is that we're at the top. and we're actually designing the future of the economy. And we're not waiting for the government institution to do it, because at the end of the day, this is America, a capitalistic country. And the leaders of these companies are the ones informing how, we do day-to-day life and day-to-day business, from a small business all the way up to enterprise. And so that's what really matters, and how you retain and how you promote is also something that matters. So it's not just like, hey, we shoved a bunch of Black people into our staff. It's like, how are you retaining them? How are we promoting them? And that's the second part of allyship in action, is actually measuring that data, which we can get to at another time. But the increments, sure, they're cute and important, but where's the and? Where's the and how are you achieving that goal of ensuring the discriminated communities are at leadership levels, informing how our world and society operates?
We'll make sure to add links in the description and on the article to allyship in action. We can get more. We're coming up on time, so I wonder if you each might, arm folks with what are some of those first steps. If we say keep incrementing, which I love, in this category of allyship, bring it into the workplace. If you watch this video and you want to say, I want my organization to really live this, what are some of the first steps or tactics you would arm people with, knowing we'll also be pointing to allyship in action for further, for more? Where do you start? Or what are some productive things you found that you think like, hey, you can do this and this actually does something? Are there examples you like?
Steffi, you want to go first? Or
You can go first.
Okay, so what I thought was super interesting is that our community, most of the community that are like in our Slack group, that sort of follow the Summit brand and are part of, they're in the journey of allyship, is their desire to want to be productive, and productive as fuck. And they're
productive as fuck. Where's that t-shirt? I think that's a t-shirt.
They're identifying challenges within their corporate structures, whether they're the client facing, whether they're internal, and they're not waiting for their DE&I task force to create open source solutions for them. And then a good example is, there's I hosted a conversation for Working Not Working for a bunch of Black people, people of color, around a safe space, and just like, how are you feeling right now? And someone shared a story about typecasting for a production and how it was awful for him. And so I was like, how do we make sure that doesn't happen? How do we make sure agencies have code of conduct policies between their clients and the agency, so we can throw a flag on the play when a brand does something wrong? And so the community galvanized, came together, and designed an open source code of conduct policy that people can use. And someone from Wieden+Kennedy reached out to Steffi and was like, oh my God, I found your code of conduct policy and we're going to start using it. And a bunch of other organizations are using it now. And it's like, that's something that started, who knows where in management, because we don't know what the roles are of these people that are in our community, but they start to take productive steps to ensure that these types of challenges have a solution somewhere in the world.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I think, the point of that was give your organization agency to support. Don't just burden your DE&I task force or burden your DE&I role. That's not fair. And it's just not fair and fucked up.
Yeah, I want to on that. Actually, I think it's powerful for people to walk away. That I think there is a like, cool, my organization has a task force. I can go back to my job. One of the central messages you're saying is, if you actually want to do this work, every single one of, just like if your organization, you think everyone's responsible for being more productive or more innovative as a firm, presumably that means the same thing, that you also should be
right.
saying, how can I contribute to this improvement? So that's great. Thank you. Steffi, I apologize to cut you off.
No, that's absolutely right. And I think, we've had so many conversations with people that were really afraid to actually speak up in their organizations, or to even mention this conversation, or to write an email to the leadership board. And so I think what's really beautiful to see is that these individuals come together in the Slack groups in like a safe space, and they find like-minded people. They find people that share the same struggle and the same challenges, and they get together and work on new policies, the new guidelines, and then they feel more empowered and have actually systems and a structure to go back to the agency and then find peers within their team to then actually have the conversation with the leadership board. And I think that's something that everyone can do who really wants to be productive and be part of the systemic change, is to find your peers, find what's your role in all this, and find someone that you can share it with and do it together, because no one is perfect, no one has the right answers, and I think we are all in this together. And like I said earlier, once you acknowledge that you're part of the problem, you can work on it and be part of the solution. And so the Slack channel is one way. You know, for organizations, like Nate mentioned earlier, we're building out a certification, a technology that will hold agencies, brands, companies, startups accountable for a more diversified, equitable industry. And maybe that's a part of the next podcast, but that's something, you know, there are options for everyone out there. You just have to find the one that fits for you.
I think it's well said. We got to go. That's been the TWIJ Show, weekly conversations about building better companies. My guests today were Steffi and Nate of the Palette Group, who co-founded Allyship in Action. We'll make sure to put links. In addition, check out the other videos we have from past conversations and about building better companies. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Steffi. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it.